Welcome, everyone. Welcome back to the Substack. And we have a really special guest today, James Darin Corbiere, um, who is an artist and a very creative soul from the Wemkong First Nations unceded territory in Ontario on Manitoulin Island, and who now lives on Vancouver Island. One God's country to another. My goodness.
Yeah, yeah, another
So,
side. Yeah,
yeah, you're a fortunate man. So welcome to the Substack, Darren, and I'm really happy that you were able to make some time to share some of your art with us and your story.
yeah, no problem. Happy to be here. Yeah, pleased to make your acquaintance. Lots of connections, right? Lots of connections back to the island. Yeah,
That's right. Yeah, I know your aunt quite well,
yeah.
and Margaret Bedwanakwa, whose father taught the Nishnaabe language in the school there. She also did herself in the high school,
Yeah, yeah.
and she knows quite a bit
And
of.
and 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 so did I. That's where
Oh,
in Sault Ste. Marie I was teaching Nishnaabe when there, and I also have a series of online Nishnaabe language videos called "Let's Start Ojibwe" that I made about 15 years ago.
all
That are
right.
still out there, that are still
Oh,
getting views through Sioux College on YouTube.
oh, is that right? Well,
Yeah. So
I really wanted to learn Ojibwe or Nishnaabe because I
yeah,
figured that, I grew up around Georgian Bay,
yeah,
and the people that have inhabited this area for hundreds or at least way back are the
yeah,
Nishnaabe people. So I
yeah.
thought, the names of the plants and the animals and the stones and everything, um, they come from the earth itself. So there
Hmm.
must be some kind of a resonance between the sound of the word and the thing itself. So if you learn the indigenous language of the area where you live, even if you're not indigenous, you're going to be able to benefit from that resonance and that harmony with the natural world.
Yeah.
However, I couldn't find a good way to learn it. So I've been putting my energy into learning the Guarani language, which is a indigenous language of South America, where I used to live for 5 years. And
Okay.
yeah, in Paraguay, there's a country actually where 80% of the people, well, they're Métis, basically. We would call them mestizo or Métis.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
80% speak the original language as well as Spanish. So it's unique in that way.
That's very good. Yeah.
So maybe later I'll connect with your old videotapes or whatever they are and
The old online videos. Yeah.
the
YouTube
online
videos.
videos
And one.
and
Yeah.
get back into a little Ojibwe.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a few years ago, I was visiting Manitoulin Island with Wemacong, your home, and your aunt gave me this beautiful. It's a card,
Yes.
and it has a picture of you in the back and a little
Yeah.
bird, and it's called Possibilities. And
Possibilities. Yes.
yeah, and she chose the perfect card for me because I write about the sacred warrior and the Aries energy and the fire, all that kind of thing. So it just really spoke to me. And I have it
Yeah.
in a very prominent place, almost like a kind of an altar in my other room.
He's pretty popular. I was surprised at how many connections that piece of artwork has made, right? For different reasons or on different levels. Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
that right? Okay.
My background is something called, I don't know if you can still see it there.
Yeah. Yeah.
This
Wow.
one is called the Old Bald Eagle,
Oh, wow.
and he showed up at about the same time as Possibilities that did. So they're contemporary. Those
That
two
looks
pieces of
amazing.
artwork. Oh, thank you.
Is that like a large piece, like on the wall, or is it?
Um, just give me a second here. I'll grab some prints here.
Okay.
So just maybe I'll change this background.
Oh,
This
it's not.
background thing.
Yeah, I realized
But
that you could have
but
disappeared like a magician there for a second. There you go
yeah,
again.
there you
Ah,
go. There you go. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But
wow.
sense of scale, I don't know. That's not working with that
Yeah, yeah.
that
So it's
background. Isn't it?
so it's fairly large. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's not picking
Very
up any.
well. Like it shows up pretty well behind you there in the backdrop. It's
Yeah,
good.
the
Very
backdrop. Yeah.
cool. Yeah. So tell me, Darren, how did you get started in painting or art? How did it all begin?
Well, in 2015, November 2015, I basically broke down years of just years of PTSD. Um,
Hmm.
I guess came to a head at that point. So about 2015, November 2015 was when I don't know what to call it. Something happened though, and anyway, I previous to that, maybe about 6 months before that, I went out on a fast for the first time in my life. I just turned 50, and I
Wow.
went out on a fast. And most times in the old societies anyway, you would go on a fast when you're 13, 14, 15 years old.
Right.
So this was like 35 years overdue.
Yeah.
Um, so uh, when I got out of the fast, I had this overwhelming urge to buy a bunch of wood. So I went out and I bought a bunch of ash, thinking that I was going to build a boat.
Yeah.
I grew up in Wiki on the res, right down on the water. Like every day when I was growing up, I'd see the elders going out in their big fishing boats. Right, there were commercial fishermen
Right.
in Wiki, and they would go out early in the mornings on their big boats, and I always wanted to go with or go along or be on a big boat. And so I thought I'm going to build this big boat, and I bought a whole bunch of ash. Um, One night, I guess concurrent with that is there was a lot of abuse that had happened at the church in Wiki. That's probably the source of most of the problems in Wiki is the church and the abuse that occurred there. Um,
Was that
uh,
sexual
so
abuse or?
yes, yeah, yeah, yeah. The church is always associated with that sort of thing. So that's what happened. Not just me either. There were when okay, years later when I sued, that was just the beginning of the process in 2015. I was thinking about doing this because I was hurting, right? And so I went out on my fast. After the fast, I bought all this wood, and then in November 2015, I I broke down. I had this big chunk of wood in the basement at my place, and I had come home from school. I was teaching in Sault Ste. Marie. I was on the Nishnaabe language teacher,
Yeah.
and I broke down. I started breaking things, smashing things,
Yeah.
and among those things was a pen. I'm a bit of a geek. I carry pens around my pocket, right?
Yeah.
And and the shirt came off, and I was smashing things, and one of them was a pen, and the pen just burst open, and the ink sprayed onto the wood, and then began to follow the grains, the
Oh, yeah.
lines,
Yeah.
and then I don't know what happened. It just I began to see things. Now, when I was a kid, the bad things started to happen at the church when I was about 7 years old. Um, Prior to that, or around that time, I would look at people and I would see light around them. Like like, and it's not like an aura. You know how gas flames look like when you
Yeah.
turn on the stove, a gas stove. They have that blue,
Yes. Yeah.
that series of colors. That's
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
it looked like. That's what it looked like, just kind of
Well,
floating
they
around.
say that we have several bodies, like the dense physical is the first one, but then the etheric body, which is the subtle body, like the Chinese, they talk about it in their traditional medicine,
Yeah.
and in India they call it Anyway, it goes out about this far, and it's the color of like cigarette smoke, like a bluish
Oh,
gray. Yeah, so that's
okay. Yeah.
probably what
Well,
you're seeing.
I remember the
And
blue. Yeah.
then there's another astral aura, which is the emotions, and it goes like 3 feet out. But that little
Yeah.
blue aura is our health aura. Yeah, cool. So
Well,
you were seeing this on people.
that's something like that. I still don't know what it is. Like I'm 7 years old, right? You don't know these things.
Of course, yeah.
But after things started to happen at the church, that went away.
Mm,
That kind of shut
right.
off. Um, Once I started dealing with with the bad things that had happened, it seemed like that ability, whatever you want to call it, that came back. So, but instead of seeing colors around people, I still can't I still can't do that. That has not come back fully. I can look at an angle at people and I can see something around them, but it's not as vivid or as intense as it was when I was a child. Um, the uh, the colors came back in the wood. Once I started to see those lines
Mm,
spreading out, or the ink spreading out on the wood, I grabbed, like, I'm a teacher, so I had supplies close by. I grabbed some other stuff and I began drawing and I began, connecting all these lines, and pretty soon there was an image, and then that's where it all started. So mid-November 2015 was when I started
wow,
doing artwork
that's
in a sense,
amazing.
like in the style that you see behind me,
Yeah,
with the ink on white ash, chunks of white ash wood.
ink on wood.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
That's an amazing story there. And right from the the early trauma and sexual abuse is one of the hard. I'm a therapist, right, and I've worked with
yeah,
a lot of clients with all kinds of trauma. I have my own trauma as well, but sexual abuse is one of the hardest, one of the deepest.
yeah.
Um,
One of the
that
Yeah,
and then the losing your ability, your faculties, your spiritual faculties, perception. But then when you had the breakdown and after the vision quest and you were going nuts and you broke the pen and that actually led to noticing for the first time the design as it seeps through the wood. That's a beautiful
yeah,
story.
yeah. That basically sums it up. Yeah, it was accidental. And I don't know whether losing that ability early on was a blessing or a curse, right? Because how I don't know how things would have. Uh, I can't predict how things would have been different, right? With that ability or with that sight. Well, like how would that have changed my life? Would I be, locked up in some mental institution
Yeah.
somewhere because I see
Possibly.
see
Right.
things around people, or with the modern way of viewing, those gifts or those abilities.
Might have been
Yeah,
a blessing. One aspect of it anyway could be a blessing in disguise. And
yeah,
I guess the good news is that some of it has returned and and it's also manifesting in your perception of the physical plane and in your art. And maybe
in the
as you
artwork.
age, yeah, a lot of times as we age, we sort of pass the midlife crisis. There's some things in astrology too, Saturn and Uranus, cycles
Yeah,
that we
yeah,
start opening up our psychic perception and our spiritual faculties again
yeah,
as we approach death, and going into the
yeah,
next spirit world. We need those
yeah,
faculties to be primed, at least priming the pump.
yeah,
So, so maybe during those years where you lost that sight, that visual sight, maybe you were developing other aspects of your sensibility and perception that were important for you to develop.
yeah. That's possible. I have no way of knowing, not without that, that base information, right? If
Yeah,
if 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 I had a twin who was whatever undisturbed, who
right,
had that ability, right, then you can have a comparison. Well, if this had not happened to me, if I had not lost that sight,
right.
right, and this other person, on a parallel timeline continued along with it, that's the only way that we'd be able to tell the difference, really. But
Exactly.
um, yeah, but it's the artwork that has come out has been cathartic, on so many different levels, in terms of the healing, in terms of taking information in my head, or carrying it around in here, and then putting it out onto paper, or onto, um, a chunk of wood.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I often think of that. there's a character in classic writing called Dorian Gray, I think,
Oh yeah. Right.
where this guy has a commissions a portrait or something, and he goes out and he parties and he drinks and plays around and messes around and does all these horrible things to his body, but it's the painting who takes the punishment,
Aging. Yeah,
right? And so
he
yeah,
doesn't age
yeah,
himself, but every
yeah,
time he goes back to look at the painting, it has aged another few years.
yeah,
So
yeah,
it's representing his inner state of mind and
yeah,
psyche. Yeah,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
supposed
So that's what I feel like sometimes with with the artwork. Instead of carrying it around inside,
yes.
I'm putting these feelings into the art. Yeah,
Well, just a couple of days ago, I had a conversation here on Substack with an old friend of mine. We met 25 years ago. She lives in
yeah,
Mexico, and she shares that a few years ago, at the same time, a 26-year-old marriage ended suddenly, surprise, and her father died, with whom she was very close, and he had instilled in her the art of dancing, and movement growing up in their home and their family. And her two sons left home; they were off. So all of a sudden, boom, she was all alone and
yeah, yeah,
traumatized and dealing with grief. But since she had this tool of authentic movement and dance, she used her art to move through the grief and the trauma to find that, wow, being alone is not so bad. There's a sacred
yeah,
solitude
yeah.
within it, which can be very creative.
There is that space in there. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So you're
Yeah,
50 years old, right now, did you say?
no, 60.
Oh,
I
60. Oh,
yeah,
you
yeah.
did
I
the Vision
started.
Quest at 50. Okay.
Yeah, when I was
Right.
50. That's yeah.
Right.
So 10 years ago. Yeah,
Yeah.
May, I think it was the May long weekend in 2015.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
And that was like the 4 day where you don't eat.
I only went for three.
Pretty
Uh, I went in on Friday, came out Sunday. So it's a three day fast. Nothing fancy. I just sat under a tree.
Yeah.
Right, no food, no water for 3 days, and then actually it was a Sasquatch, a Sasquatch who came to visit me in I guess in my
Yeah.
vision.
Is that
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Sasquatch.
yeah, and
Wow.
the it was really 10 years ago. 10 years ago, he was sitting on a rock. So
Yeah.
there was this stone, like a big, like a big flat rock, stack of flat rocks, and he was sitting on the top of this stack of flat rocks, and he was looking at me, and then he just pointed down, and I don't know if he said it, but what I heard him say, um, uh, "There's treasure underneath here, but you're going to have to work hard to get to it."
Hmm.
Right? You're going to have to work hard. You have to dig it out. And then so I I did bring with me a pen and some paper on this fast.
Yeah.
And as things came up, I would jot them down as they came up. And so I drew little pictures of him sitting on the thing, the things that were going on at the time, the music, or not the music, but the bird song and things like that. So it was funny because now here I am. It's 10 years later, and I'm on Vancouver Island, which is a rock, right? Some
Yeah.
people call it the Rock.
Rock.
Out here, anyway, on the West Coast. I know on the East Coast we refer to
Newfoundland
Newfoundland as
also. Yeah.
right? Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
so here I am on the rock, but on this rock there are Sasquatch, right? There are Sasquatches. I don't know what the plural term is, but there are
Right.
these mythical beings who reside or live in this land, and
Yeah.
here I am in
Right.
this land, of this mythical being, and searching for treasure, sort of, right? Working hard to make things happen. Yeah. So it's almost like a prediction of future events, right?
Well, there's Baha'u'llah, the founder of the Baha'i faith. He wrote this little book. It's called The Hidden Words. And each one is a little tiny verse, and it's like an aphorism or a very powerful conversation between the creator and man or woman.
Yeah. Yeah.
And each one is just so deep and profound. And there's one where it says, "O son of being, um, I knew my love for thee, so I created thee. Um, uh, if you lovest me, was it if you want me to love you, you need to love me. It's like a two-way street.
Yeah.
But again, he says, your heart, the heart of man is my home. So you need to guard it very carefully because it's a treasure. So we have in our heart that portal, like an opening to the
Hmm.
subconscious mind, the psychologist might call it, or the world of dreams or intuition, art. The body itself is kind of a doorway. And so I love the symbolism of that. I guess you could call it a vision with the Sasquatch
Hmm.
pointing down to the rock and said, there's a treasure here for you, but it's going to be a
Yeah.
lot of hard work to get it out,
Yeah. Yeah.
to
Yeah.
access.
Yeah.
So what would you say is that treasure then in your case?
I I don't know. I guess it depends on how you define what you define as treasure.
Right?
Uh, Peace of mind,
Mm,
right? Uh, Happy heart,
yeah,
unburdened with
mm,
uh, well, not completely unburdened. I mean, there are residual effects that you can never. I don't imagine you can ever get
yes,
rid of
that's right.
um, from those things that happen at the church. But letting those things go
Mm,
has really done a lot in terms of improving my overall state of mental and
mm,
spiritual well-being, as well as physically too, right? Because it translates. If you're feeling like crap, you don't want to you don't want to travel, you don't want to go out, you don't want to exercise or anything like that. But so when you're
no,
feeling better, you're a little more motivated to
yeah,
to succeed, I guess.
yeah.
um
I've
my
noticed on. Go ahead, sorry.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, in terms of physical assets, like when you look at the this whatever this view of the artwork behind me, that's one of about almost 300 pieces of artwork that I've done since
Mm,
then,
mm,
since November 2015. So
mm,
the this one in behind me, the old bald eagle, he showed up in April of 2018 after I had quit my teaching job in Ontario and moved out here to BC.
mm.
Um, the old bald eagle. He's according to Auntie Margaret,
Yeah,
we are from the Thunderbird clan,
that's right. I
which
remember.
which is represented by the eagle, and
Yes.
so to honor my father's side, which is something that there's some confusion in our um, on tracing our lineage. We on Nishnaabe, we're a matrilineal society, so we would trace it to our mothers. So
Okay.
technically, I would be Bear Clan because my mom is Bear Clan, my
Ah,
grandmother's Bear Clan.
all right.
But some of us also follow the father's side, right,
Mm.
and tracing lineage. And my father's side is that
It's
Thunderbird clan.
the Thunderbird.
Yeah. So that's one of the guys who showed up when I first moved out here, and then in Anishinaabe philosophy and legends, the when after we die, our spirits travel for 4 days into the west, into the mountains to the west. So from Toronto or from Ontario,
Of course it is.
the mountains are way out there in the west,
Yeah.
and this is the land, the legendary land of all these mythical giant creatures like the Sasquatch, right? The Sasquatch, the Thunderbird lives out here, resides here. Um, so to be out here, to find myself,
Mm.
and it was never something I had intended. Like I didn't say, after the vision, I said, oh, that means I have to move to Vancouver and or Vancouver Island, and that's where I'm going to find all this treasure. I I I just the circumstances happened to roll out in a certain direction, and I just
Right.
went along. So I always say, when I end up at a certain point, I go, wow, wow, this is actually pretty good. And after a while, I start to think, well, somebody's looking after me, Creator, and now I believe that Creator has a plan. Right? Creator has a plan. It may not roll out immediately like we're accustomed to, flick a switch and boom, there's light kind of thing. This is going to take time and effort. We have to put everything in place, and it's
That's
taken
right.
years of effort to get to
Yeah.
this point. Yeah.
That's where steadfastness is such a powerful virtue. You know, that
Mhm.
some people might even call it faith or
Yeah,
consistency,
yeah,
just
yeah,
continuing to show up, and do what needs to be done, whether even if it's washing the dishes or, taking out the
yeah,
trash or
yeah,
learning, learning skills and practicing, helping other people and not giving up on that, even if we go through a hard time, remembering that that's kind of our foundation is our connection with others, community. And if we can think more of other people than ourselves, like what I'm wondering through your art, I know I'm a bit of an artist myself, more music,
yeah,
but it's very fulfilling, and the creative process can be ecstatic and very satisfying and terrifying also sometimes, but that's kind of
yeah,
fun to be scared.
yeah.
It's one of the colors in the spectrum, right? So I'm wondering, like, as well as your own personal kind of healing process, right, from when you were before 7 years old, up till now, as well as feeling that freedom, maybe, or expansiveness of being out west and developing your art. If there's also a kind of a purpose that through your art you can help other people experience that peacefulness, that you have sought, peacefulness, peace of mind, you said, and there's something else you mentioned. Do you feel a kind of a mission in any way, or you sort of leave that to the
No, no,
creator?
not necessarily. I've just got to I got to get a Kleenex here. I, no, it's more like, being, I tend to think now, um, at first it felt like more like a boat that was, without a rudder, kind of at the mercy of the wind and the
Oh,
waves.
right.
At first, but uh, I tend to think that there are like a trail of breadcrumbs, and I'm learning now to pay attention, right? At first it just seems these things randomly show up, and they just happen to be beneficial, right? Holy shit, like wow, that's happening. Uh, I'll give you an example. Years ago, many years ago, I was biking across. I had this idea that I was going to bike across Canada, and I was looking for a vehicle that could carry a fairly large group of people. And I was teaching at one school, and then during lunch, what I would do is I would take my bike and I'd go up to the top of the hill to work at another school for the afternoon. So in the morning I was at White Pines, in the afternoon I was at a place called Alexander Henry. And during my lunch hour, I jump on my bike and I bike up the hill, maybe a 20-minute bike ride. Um, when I was thinking about, I had that thought in my mind, like, how am I gonna bring all these people along with me? I only had a small car at the time, and then I drove by one of these dealerships, and I saw an old rundown Chevy Safari van, and I thought, oh well, let's just stop in and ask. We'll see how much they want for it. So I stopped in, and they said, we're gonna do a mechanical, and you can probably have it for $700. And so I came back later, picked up the van for $700, and then that led me from St. John's, Newfoundland. Uh, I hooked up a trailer to this little old van, and I had a crew of six other people with me, and we went to St. John's, Newfoundland, and we biked all across Canada
Wow.
to Vancouver. Yeah, that summer. So, like I said, just these things show up, um, when they're needed. I guess just when they're needed. So when so there's no, I don't necessarily go into a situation thinking, okay, here's the goal, this is what's going to happen, this is the way it's going to look. Um, I got a feeling, I got oh, here's an interesting piece of artwork. I'm going to draw this little, or I'm going to work on this little piece of artwork, and then later that artwork becomes the board for my board game, for example, or one of the characters, in the comic books that I write. So there's always something. There's always something that
Right.
I guess it is intended. It's just a matter of me finding out where it fits. And so a lot of these things will come up, like I said, haphazard, right? You've got like I said, it's the wind and the waves. But now I'm learning to um, predict, um, have some control. I have some control, I think, over
Yeah.
that process now. Now, and then going back to that, at 7 years old, um, uh, having that ability. Imagine, as I grew older, I wonder how that ability would have progressed, if it
Yeah.
would have driven me crazy.
Yeah.
If in the old days prior to colonization, we had people who had the ability to see, and they were visionaries and things like that, and they would teach, they would pass that knowledge on to the next generation, right, the younger people. So I didn't have that, right? I didn't have that access to people who had that knowledge about how to use that gift,
Right. Right.
right? So now I have to learn everything over, but
Bring it back. Yeah.
I had to wait till wait till I was mature enough at 50 years old, maybe, before I could realize, the things that are going on in my head, that I'm not crazy, right? I'm not. I don't. That these are things that I can control, that I can
The,
manipulate, I suppose.
it reminds me,
Um,
several years ago, I remember somebody saying that, after several generations of our First Nations people being subjected to loss on so many levels, loss of dignity, loss of land, loss of culture,
yeah,
even to the point where it was illegal for somebody to sing a sacred song up until the
yeah,
1950s, I think. Crazy.
yeah,
So there
yeah,
was that gap of a few generations, maybe 80 to 120 years or something,
yeah,
where there was this blackout. And
yeah,
even
yeah,
the elders that did have the knowledge, they had to pretty much, keep it to themselves or else.
yeah,
But
yeah,
this person said, however, there's a process whereby some of the young people and middle-aged people too, they're dreaming back the culture. So even though there was that gap in the
yeah, yeah,
transmission, like generation to generation, people are like yourself having visions or dreams and seeing in those dreams, perhaps an elder or a wise man or a shaman from the past comes to them and instructs them in certain rituals and ceremonies. And it's such an exciting thought that it's always there. It exists on some plane. It disappears from sight on the physical
yeah,
plane, just like your vision disappeared for a few decades, right? And then it's
yeah,
going to
yeah,
come back. And your art
yeah,
is amazing. I would love to get some my hands or just at least see more of it. And I love that. I've experimented a little bit, very tiny bit of different foods. Even they have some of the color dyes, like
yeah,
beets and things like that. Putting them on
yeah,
different kinds of paper with my
yeah,
finger. But the idea of ink into wood, and that's exactly what you have behind you, right? The
yeah, yeah,
old ball-headed
yeah,
eagle. Mm,
yeah. Ink on white ash. Yeah,
on white ash, and beautiful.
yeah. That's specific. That's the only one that really I connect with, I guess. Um, uh, People have tried to sell me maple and cedar and other chunks of wood, which I've been around for years and years and years, but never. There's no I'll get a chunk of wood, a chunk of ash, and I'll
Right,
go. I can see things in there. I get a
right.
chunk of maple or a chunk of whatever, any other tree or wood, and it just doesn't speak to me
Not the
like
same.
like the ash does. Yeah.
Is there something about the white ash, like the texture or the bark, or that is different,
I
or
I,
more of
I think it's just the variety and the way the grains go.
yeah,
I can see patterns. My
wow,
brain can trace patterns.
yeah,
In a lot of ways, sometimes I describe that ability as like painting by numbers.
mhm.
Right? You remember the old paint by numbers kits that you would get? They
Yeah,
would have all the little paints ready, and everything was numbered, and you would just
yeah,
color in.
Yeah.
color in the numbers. Yeah, that's what it feels like sometimes in doing this style of artwork or this type of artwork. I'll
Mhm.
I'll draw in I'll draw in the outline of the main features, right? And then I'll go in and I'll just color
Mhm.
it in later. Yeah.
So, circling back to something you said a few minutes ago, uh, is interesting for me as a way of going about life or art or anything. Um, you say that, some people, they get everything all figured out beforehand, right? And say, okay, here's the
Yes.
blueprints, the template, and this is what we're going to fill in the pieces.
Yeah.
And then, however, you said, no, you just sort of follow the breadcrumbs, meaning one little step at a time, and you don't really know where it's going, but somehow you trust that it'll go somewhere interesting.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
gradually it comes into form. However, then you said, but I'm starting to be able to predict things a little bit now. So I'm wondering if you start an art project, you have one little crumb and then another crumb. So things start to come together a little bit. But do you start to get a picture maybe of what it would look like at the end? Like seeing the end in the beginning?
I think so now. More so now than when I first started, for example. So when I first started, you could imagine being given a puzzle,
Yeah,
right? And you're only taking one piece out of the box at a time, and you're trying to
yeah.
figure out what the image
Like
is
the
supposed to look like. Uh,
jigsaw puzzle.
yeah. So now at least I have I got to look at the cover of the box
All right. Yeah.
for a few minutes, and then
So you
and
got a
then as I
glimpse.
and then yeah, just a quick flash of what the end result might look like, and I think, okay, so I know where all these pieces are going to go now,
Right.
right? And so instead of taking out a jumbled mess of pile of bits, I'll take them and I'll sort them and I'll say, okay, this is how it goes, boom, 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 and then that sort of speeds everything up in terms of getting everything ready.
Exactly. Well, that's what I'm thinking as we get a bit older. I'm a lot older than you are, but I noticed that I'm looking constantly for shortcuts and ways to economize the time and effort
Mhm.
because
Yep.
I've only got so much energy and so many years left. So if I were to be running around in circles like when I was 20 or 30, barking up the wrong tree a lot of times, I never did
Yeah.
get the white ash tree. Maybe that would have been the right one.
Yeah.
But if I were to be doing that now, I'd just be wasting most of my time and not really being able to go forward towards my purpose in life.
Yeah.
So I like what you're saying that you're starting to get more efficient, maybe more masterful as an artist.
Well, that's also another thing, right? I'm getting better at it. I've been doing this for almost 10 years now. So yeah, with practice, of course, you're going to get better at pretty much
Yeah,
anything, right? But
right. You're
but
devoted.
again, that process, again, going back to when I was a kid, if we had teachers who knew how to do this
Yeah,
when I was a kid, you know, like if Auntie Margaret knew how to do this when I was 7 or 8 years old, she might have been my guide, right? Well,
yeah,
this is what you do. So by the time I hit 25, I'd be where I am now,
exactly. Yeah,
right? As opposed
yeah.
to 30 years later at
I
age
know.
60. That yeah, yeah,
Well, I didn't really have a mentor growing up. My dad, a bit. He
yeah,
was he was a pretty good guy, but
yeah,
I would have loved to have had somebody, maybe an
yeah,
uncle or a shaman or somebody,
yeah,
could just
yeah,
sort of take me under their wing and teach me some stuff. I had to learn it on my own, but I do love to mentor other people if I get a chance. But I'm just
yeah,
wondering, you're at a good age. You're still pretty young. You've still got some good years left in you.
yeah.
So do you do you, for example, even within your profession as an artist, are you able to mentor younger artists or just younger people, maybe Indigenous First Nations people or others, sharing some of the things that that you've learned through trauma and healing?
I I I don't know so much about mentorship as having a group of dedicated students following me or me passing on my knowledge to a small group of people. I am a teacher. I was a teacher.
Yes.
Um, I had. probably over my teaching career. It wasn't very long, maybe 10 or 11 years, but I probably had about 1,000 students
Oh, that's a lot of people.
over that time.
Great.
But it was Ontario curriculum that I was teaching, not necessarily traditional values or thinking or philosophy. The um, I mean, if anybody wants to learn how to do this, as far as I know, I'm the only guy in as far as I know, the galaxy who does this kind of artwork, this style of
Really?
artwork.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow,
Well,
I love that. Yeah. You have a unique I'm like that. I always have to be at the cutting edge or doing something different or
yeah.
innovative. And as soon as other people start doing the same thing, I thought, old hat, I got to find something new to do. Well,
Yeah.
you found something and you're still the only one in the galaxy. Wow.
Well, as far as I know, I mean,
Well,
somebody
yeah,
else,
it's
some
like, and
alien
we
might
never
come up
know, but
here
there
and
could be somebody up there in the Pleiades or
yeah,
Orion.
yeah, yeah, who might show up and say, "Hey, I've
In a
copyrighted
parallel
this."
universe. Well, I'm really, I'd love to see more of your art in person or online or whatever. So maybe at the bottom underneath our video, I can put a link where people can have access to your work and
Yep,
if they want to acquire some or whatever.
I'm in the process of building a website. One of the tabs on the website is the gallery, or called it's under creations, and
Right.
there's a gallery there, and in that gallery there are several other smaller um, sections for each collection.
Yeah.
So I think so far we've put up four different collections
Okay.
in that gallery, representing
So,
maybe 30 pieces of artwork out of
so
the
it's
300
already
or so.
available online to see it.
That, not yet, not
Not quite
yet.
yet.
We're
Okay.
working on it. Yeah, but the
Work in progress.
easternwoodlandart.ca or easternwoodlandart.com
Uh,
is the website. It's up, it's open, it's running. You can go there now and you can take a look around, but it's very limited as to
yeah.
what you could see because we haven't finished everything yet. So
Right.
it's under
Well,
construction.
down the road when it's finished, if it's within the
Yeah.
somewhat near future, just send
Yeah.
it along to me and then I'll add it in
Okay.
at that time.
Sure.
And maybe occasionally I even repost a video if it's good. Nice conversation like
Okay.
this. Maybe
Yeah.
6 months from now, I'll post it again with a little update or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
So before we have to wind down, I'd love to talk with you for hours, but your aunt Marguerite told me that you created a game, a board game of some kind of thing,
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
based on reconciliation. Is that the word reconciliation?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I thought,
Well,
wow, what a fantastic idea to educate people about this process and the dialogue between Indigenous and non-Indigenous people in Canada, right?
yeah. Yeah.
So can you tell us
The
a bit about it? I don't really
when
understand
I
it.
was in Sault Ste. Marie shortly after, so 2015, I had this vision. Like in the
Wow.
spring of 2015, I had this vision, and then um, I, like I said, in November, things just fell apart. That same year, things just fell apart. I had to take a year off of teaching
Uh-huh.
just to help, just to settle down.
Yeah.
Um, when I came back, when I came back to teaching, that first year back, they this was about the time. So 2015 was the same year that the Truth and Reconciliation Commission report came out,
Right. Yeah.
and so when I returned to school in 2017, so it was like the spring of 2017 that I returned to school. I'd taken a year off.
Mhm.
Um, Went back to school in 2017, and the staff were there's a lot of infighting. How do we respond to this? Whose culture do we teach? How do we don't know anything about reconciliation? Where are
Yeah.
the resources? There are no resources, right,
Uh-huh.
to help teach this subject.
Yeah.
Um, I happened to be teaching grade 10 history at the same time because they didn't have enough students for my grade 10 Nishnaabe language class. So
Yeah.
they gave me a grade 10 Canadian history class, Canadian contemporary history. They've done that
Uh-huh.
before, but at this time it was different because um, Canadian history never reflects the Indigenous voice, right? It
Oh,
never sounds the Indigenous voice, or very little. You
very
get
good.
a 200-page textbook,
Yeah.
and maybe 10 pages, five, are about Indigenous contributions and efforts
very
and
inadequate.
experiences. Yeah, yeah. So it was the May long weekend, 2017. I was getting my students ready for exams in June, and I was going to give them a cheat sheet, and what I did was I took the cheat sheet and I cut it up into flashcards, and then the flashcards became the truth and consequence cards for the game that I created. So in this little game, I was thinking, well, what do we have? We didn't have money, right? Money wasn't introduced until the Europeans arrived. So we didn't have money, but what did we have that was valuable? Well, we had land, language, culture, and identity. And so these became the currency in the game, in this little game that I had created. And the idea was that you had to circle Turtle Island. You had to go around the board, circle Turtle Island, and try to hang on to as much of your land, language, culture, and identity as you possibly can.
Wow, yeah.
So that was the initial idea behind the game. In October 2017.
It's like the opposite of Monopoly. You start out Monopoly, you don't have anything. You try to grab up as much as you can, but in you start with everything, and you just try to hold on to it and keep
I'll hold on to it.
people from stealing it.
yeah, and it's the church and the state, right? The crown. Sorry, the church and the crown, who are the ones who are taking the stuff from you.
Exactly.
And they do it through these policies, the legislation. So we would go through Canadian history. Well, in the classic example is, okay, well, on July 1st, you pull a card, a congrats card. It was a congrats card. You pulled a congrats card. Hey, July 1st, 1867. Hooray, Canada is created. Hooray. And then there's a consequence for every card. The consequence was every Indigenous player had to surrender 2 land cards. Right. So that's basically how the game is played. We go on to another historical fact. 1960, Indigenous people finally get the right to vote in federal elections. Hooray, you get 1 identity card back. That kind of thing, right? So that's basically how the game was played.
It was sort of kind of a currency with the cards.
With the cards, yeah.
Brilliant. That's a wonderful idea because it not only educates people about what's going on with this conversation, which it's far from perfect, but compared to most countries in the Americas, Canada is pretty far ahead in the relationship with the Indigenous people.
In terms of
compared to Paraguay, where I was, or Bolivia, or most of the other countries are just beginning now. But that's really cool. So how can I get one? Where can people buy one or send away for one? Is there a
There are two options.
Yeah.
You could message me. I have games in stock.
Okay.
I sell them for $100 retail. The retail is $100 no matter where you go.
All right.
If you want to see one, if you want to see a game right away, there's a game shop somewhere in downtown Toronto. I can't remember the name of the place, but there was when I went to the Toronto Comic Arts Festival in June, one of the people who came by saw my game and they said, "Oh, we have one of these there's a game shop. It's like a game library. I can't remember the name. It's a game library somewhere right downtown where you can go in and you can borrow the game. You can check it out, borrow it, play it, and then bring it back."
Maybe you can remember the name of it, or I'll research as well on Google, and then I can add that underneath the video.
It starts with an L anyway, like
okay,
lobby games or I'll have to look it up. Yeah,
I'm a pretty good detective. I'll probably find it. Yeah. Okay, well that's very cool. So you're a thinker and you're an educator and you are a mentor. You don't necessarily go out looking for individual students, but through your art, through your teaching, and now through fun, because games are fun, right? Playing, there's a playful aspect, but it's deeply educational as well, and helping both the native people as well as especially non-native people to understand a bit about the history and like what was there before the colonial powers ravaged the land, and just to see the profound trauma to a people. It's just
Mhm.
unbelievable. I
Yeah.
am continually amazed how the indigenous people of the Americas, especially where they've become a minority, like in Canada, a small minority of the population, in spite of all the hardship and the violence and the deception and theft, that is still strong. And when you see First Nations people being interviewed, sometimes when there's a conference or a powwow or whatever, people often say, "We're not going anywhere. We're here and we're staying." So
Yeah. Yeah.
get used to it. We're a force
Yeah.
to be reckoned with, and
Yeah.
actually, the population of the First Nations community is growing faster than any other ethnic group in
And
Canada.
then any other group. Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
yes, it's going to be a bigger and bigger
I mean,
percentage.
barring immigration, right? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So things are looking up, and thanks to people like you, Darin, for being a spokesman. Translating some of the vision that has always been there and is in that spiritual world down into physical form that can provide a template, or a vehicle for people not only to appreciate the beauty of art, but to learn about where that art is coming from.
Yeah.
So, Miigwech, thank you.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Miguel. Yeah. Thank you for providing the opportunity. Yeah.
Well, I was really when Marjorie told me what you were up to, I was quite intrigued, and I think did we meet once briefly in the hotel in Little Current? Maybe not. Maybe it wasn't you. Margaret and I were having breakfast. I was on my way back to Toronto or something, but I thought you were with a couple of other
Yeah.
people.
No, I was the only
Just
time that I was at the hotel in Little Current was last September or October. Yeah.
ah,
Thanksgiving.
last year.
Yeah.
Okay. No, it was
Yeah.
more like
Yeah. That was the only
2 years.
time I've ever been. Yeah.
Okay, so we've
Might have
never
been doppelganger.
maybe
Yeah.
that parallel universe,
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
the one that's been seeing the visions all these years.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You never know, right? Okay, well, Darren, thank you so much, and I would love to have you back again sometime in the future. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
sure there are other topics we could explore.
Yep. Oh, for sure.
Well,
Yep.
breathe that cool, clean West
Oh,
Coast.
yes. And the tsunami.
The soya is a little bit of a tsunami from Russia, right?
Russia. Yeah.
Yeah.
Russia with love.
There you go. Okay. Bob, Mama
Mama P. Yeah. Thank you. Miguel.
Right, Miigwech. Thanks so much.
All right.
All
Talk
right.
to you again.
Yeah, you too.